economic value to native habitats and their pollinators. Now, why? Why would we switch from our standard landscapes that have been used over these decades to native landscapes? Well, there's actually an economic component to it. Now, there was a study done by Applied Ecological Services over in Wisconsin, and this study estimates that over a 20-year period, the cumulative cost of maintaining a non-native landscape was up to $20,000, as compared to a native landscape, which was about $3,000. So that cost difference, because of the reduction of pesticides that you'll need, because of the maintenance factor that is not necessary, you don't need the bark mulch, you don't need all of these additives that are included in a lot of our general urban landscape areas. By utilizing native components and their pollinators, like I said before, these were already put in place. They already know how to work with each other. And in so doing, they will provide these economic values. Just a quick story about one of the economic values that native plants provide. Now, within the root systems of many native plants, they actually will excrete a certain compound that prohibits the growth of non-native plants. So by establishing a native community within a landscape, just through the natural chemical composition of these native plants within the soils, they will do the maintenance for you. And they'll reduce the non-native plants that can grow amongst and within them once they get established in the soil. Now, of course, during the first few years, there's going to be some cost involved in establishing these native communities. But once it's established, that cost just goes. And like many folks, in terms of the water that's needed, any sort of actual man maintenance, like, for a staff to go out there and maintain the land, all of it gets reduced when the native habitats get established. And so now the economic benefits of native plants can be measured actually from the damage that non-native plants do. And there's another study over in Oregon that the presence of non-native species cost an estimated $125 million a year. And this is reality, because in a lot of areas you have to use maintenance crews to go out there and remove all these species that just end up growing and growing. Many of these species, because they're not from here, their life cycle is at a different stage. And so what happens is that they grow up first and they take all the water and they take all the nutrients first, and then they die off. It makes a big difference for a lot of our fire season, for our flood season, for our drought component. Because for fire, when these new non-natives grow up, they pretty much produce matchsticks ready to be burnt first in the season, before any of the non-natives would have grown up. For the drought component, many of our non-native plants within our riparian systems, within the creek courses and within river courses, there's one particular species known as Arundodonax. It's a common name, arundo, or giant reed. This species actually, per plant, will take over 1.5 gallons of water from the ground per day. And when you have thousands of plants that can grow in one area, that 1.5 gallons is a lot of water from each plant. And so a lot of these economic detriments that could be reduced by just simply switching out the non-native landscape with a native landscape is where the economic value comes in. From the maintenance reduction to the chemical herbicide reduction to the drought, taking the water component, to proliferating for fire component, all of that gets reduced by removing the non-natives from the landscape and replacing it with native plants and the pollinators that support them.